6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You'll never have the sacred stone.
Welcome to the next edition of the Vegas Squares podcast. It's the middle of the week, which means it's our golf betting show. And this week, the tournament is coming to you from Puntacana, Dominican Republic, which is where I'm at right now, kind of. Sorry, gents, there just wasn't enough money in the budget to get you guys out here to cover the action.
But they got me one of those shirts, though. That might have been nice.
Yeah, I figured if you're going to come out to the Dominican Republic, you've got to play the part. So
there you go.
I think I have 2 total Hawaiian shirts in the closet. All right, so we've got Tony Johnson here, and we've got Token Tony. We're back. I feel exhausted from the U.S. Open, man. Wingfoot, I feel like I played. It took such a toll out of everybody. I mean, you could feel the announcers, and obviously only one guy under par, which is just crazy. I mean, it's just such an event. But if you've been living under a rock, we will recap the U.S. Open here. Bryson DeChambeau is your winner. He came in, I believe, opening at 11, 12 to 1.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, give or take in some of these spots. But we've talked about Bryson ever since the restart, ever since we've done these golf podcasts, that it's Bryson ball. And we were wondering really if it would pan out on a major level. And within 2 majors, I mean, he's number 1 at the U.S. Open, and he's T4 at the PGA Championship at Harding Park. Hard to say that it's not working. Wanted to talk to you guys about him just a little bit here. I didn't appreciate some of these guys, and over the weeks, you got obviously the Brooks Koepka comments. And I know that, Bryson's not without fault, but, if Rory's comment at the end, it seemed kind of strange to me, him saying, and I'm paraphrasing here, that he was shocked to see Bryson win. He was shocked to see how well he won, but he was kind of shocked to see that style of golf won. I took that as a little bit of a slight. It seems like Rory's a little opinionated lately.
It seems like he has like a chip on his shoulder, especially when it comes to BDC, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, the guy's not really competing in terms of Rory McIlroy. I know that he was once the next Tiger Woods, and I'm not saying that we're jumping to that conclusion with Bryson DeChambeau. Make no mistake about it. I mean, the guy's only won 1 major. But, I mean, he seems to be there every week, and that sometimes was half the battle in Tiger's reign. Tony, I don't appreciate – I can't say I don't appreciate, but I don't like how the rest of the tour really is kind of taking jabs at a guy who, he didn't say he was doing this for popularity. He didn't say he was doing this for the fans. He's doing it for himself to make himself a better golfer. And so far, it's been a success.
Yeah, it has, and I think it finally actually got real this week. As the old saying goes, shit got real. I think that was it. Winning in Detroit, the Rocket Mortgage Classic is it's good. Obviously, it's great for a career and such, but it's not going to move the needle really at all. But this is big-time major golf. Many regard this as the most trying test of golf that there is, on a yearly basis. And it's the United States Open. It's the second longest running tournament of all time. It's a big deal. So I think it really hit people where it hurt. And we finally got to see the real kind of side come from here. And the guys like McIlroy and a few others that are very, unhappy that they lost, unhappy that they didn't perform as well. But, when a guy really, does things very, very differently and, kind of rocks the boat a little bit. And, it's just not a normal way to proceed, in golf. We've seen people try to do things a little bit similar to this and fail miserably, and he's doing the opposite. He's not failing miserably, so I think people are upset about it. But, I don't disagree with you, Aaron. I think you make a really valid point here is that, we should embrace this and, guys that are creative and different and opinionated and he's a thoughtful guy. Again, I'm not the biggest fan of his per se, but that doesn't mean that I don't respect what he's doing and respect the quality of his game and what he's been able to do and change. And I think that's would be the right approach for some of these other guys, instead of kind of being pouty and whiny that, they didn't, get better type of thing. I think that, I hate to say it, but that's sort of what it's about to me.
Yeah, and I mean, like you said, the only guy under par, which I know, linking back to the last week's show where we previewed the U.S. Open, you had that winning score at even par or worse, and everybody else obliged except for Bryson DeChambeau for you. A couple of interesting stats. I'll just throw these out there. You guys can analyze them how you will. But the first stat is Bryson was the only guy to shoot par or better in all 4 rounds, which is on that course obviously has to be commended. Total rounds under par by every single person that went out there, 32.
Wow.
32 total rounds of 69 or better. And this was my favorite one. The first 5 holes all weekend, 600 over par.
Yeah. I remember seeing that one on the broadcast. That was great. I agree.
600 over par.
That's insane.
Incredible. And a smaller field this year than normal too. Even better.
Yeah. And we talked about this. We've talked about it over a few podcasts. How we've both been on the train of like we kind of want to see courses be a little harder. Is that what we got from Winged Foot? Is that what we got from Shinnecock? Is that what we get from these, or what? How do you analyze courses like this? Because you hear they try to do it very subtly, but you hear the complaints and the rumblings and the grumblings from some of these PGA Tour professionals, and then the fans. I don't want to see 6 over par. I don't want to see even par win a tournament. But here on this broadcast, I know some of us tend to favor this in our majors. Looking at you, Mr. Cutoff.
Oh, yeah. I mean, absolutely. I'd rather see them struggle and just have absolute pure mayhem going into that final round or that final stretch of holes, and just who can grind it out the best and put the play where their mouth is, or
reverse.
Yeah.
What do you guys take away from this U.S. Open, just as a whole? I mean, like I said, sometimes we get courses. I mean, Augusta, these guys can go low. Harding Park, we saw them go low. And then courses like this, I don't know. Whoever's designing courses in New York seems to be doing something right in terms of difficulty. You got Bethpage, you got Shinnecock, you got this one, Winged Foot. So maybe we should get these guys to start designing courses all over the U.S. Open Tour circuit. But what do you guys take away from this? It doesn't have to necessarily be Bryson DeChambeau.
Yeah, the main thing for me is, it's nice to see, a really, really challenging course, not just in the sense of everyone challenged, no matter what style of golfer you are, short hitter, long hitter, et cetera. But it was a very, very fair test as well. You didn't get a lot of crazy, weird bounces. There wasn't a lot of heavy wind and really, really difficult pin positions where, you couldn't go at a pin position. There were a couple of those at Harding Park where players really couldn't actually hit at a pin. And to me, I think that's where it goes a little bit too far. I love, in challenging, difficult golf, especially when the weather comes into play. But when you can't actually go at a flag, because even if you hit the ball near the hole or anywhere short of the hole, it will bounce through the green, or if you miss it left, right, you have no chance. Like, to me, that's too far. And I didn't really think that there were any spots like that. I thought, they even had an intermediate rough this week. They don't always have that in most U.S. Opens, and I thought that was a really, really nice addition here. In a lot of spots where, traditional fairway misses on one side, depending on what the hole is, they would have an intermediate cut, a rough. And I thought that was a really, really smart and great idea from the USGA. So I really thought it was a great fair test, and we really saw who truly the best player of the week was. I mean, no doubt about it. To me, I take it away from, a great tournament, my second favorite tournament of the year, actually when it's a very, very close 1 and 2 between this one and the British Open. And, I love these weeks just for this, because I think you really get a nice, true, difficult test. And, the British Open is more weather related usually, which I do like, but this was fantastic to me. So the takeaway for me is, tournaments like this are what get me excited, very, very excited, compared to some of the other weeks. And nothing wrong with, a Puntacana, resort style course, nothing at all. It's just a different test, but I really enjoyed it personally.
Yeah, I played Puntacana this morning. The greens look great.
Sure they are. Yeah, absolutely.
What did you shoot? 110?
No, actually, I shot a 95, and the
Nice.
bartender just kept bringing me this customized Mai Tais that you see here.
That's the key. Yes.
Fair enough.
I mean, it's weird how these
It just
brand
looked
of
like
cups they sell these branded cups here too. I mean, in Dominican Republic like they do in the States.
Yeah, looks like it just popped out of thin air almost.
I know, ready? Oh,
Yeah.
wait, Linus. Oh, there it is. Yeah, Token, what do you take away from this U.S. Open? And I don't know, like I said, we've talked about it. I'm a pro, making the course tougher guy, and maybe it was just Bryson's weekend. Maybe he plays this course, in 4 or 5 years, or even in, if they played it next week, it might have had a different outcome for him. He just might have been dialed in. The range session was highly touted after the third round when he only hit like 2 or 3 fairways and he went on the range. I know that they made a really big deal out of that, and that might have been, one of the deciding factors. But again, doesn't have to be Bryson, but what you really take away from this, maybe going forward for the rest of the year? I can tell you one thing: you're losing that Phil Mickelson bet.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Most likely.
Yeah. I mean, in my opinion, I thought he played the best this week, and just it was his week to go. What my surprise was on Thursday, how many people came out of the gate as strong as they did. I thought it was going to be a struggle week or on Thursday for sure. And,
I mean, JT shooting 5 under. I was like, holy crap. No, I mean, no disrespect to Tony Johnson, but I'm like, your prediction of even par or worse is going to get blown out of the water. I mean, it still was by one guy, but it looked like it was going to get blown out by like 10 guys.
Yeah. I mean, putting was atrocious this past week too for some players. I mean, look at Danny Lee, especially the last hole that he played.
Now, do you guys find that as a sign of disrespect? A lot of people were saying that he was disrespecting the course by really not lining up his putts, and it looked like he had just given up after like the third one.
I know he was kind of hurting towards the tail end of the third round. He said he mainly withdrew because of a wrist injury.
No, I know, but I mean, I don't know how that affected the 6-putt. But I mean, we see in all these other sports where people talk about disrespecting the game. I don't know the unwritten rule about lining up your putts, because not that I'm playing at winged foot, but I've walked over and burnt an edge and then just kind of not really lined it up. I don't know. I didn't take it as I could definitely see it as a sign of frustration for him, but I didn't see it that way as a sign of disrespect. What about you, Tony?
No, I'm with you. I didn't see that way either. Again, it was a guy that was frustrated and not 100%. And when you're on a course that has no recovery spots, really, there's no way to really get a lot of shots back. You sort of know that if you make, a couple of big grave mistakes, you're probably done for. So it's a frustrating time. And, Danny is, not usually that kind of guy either. So it was a little bit out of character, actually, more so than anything. From Danny Lee, but no, I just saw it as a frustrated guy. I don't see it as a attack on the game or anything like that. And again, Danny's a very stand-up guy. He's never had any issues whatsoever in regards to any sort of etiquette or anything like that. He's always been a good dude. So yeah, no, I think it was just a frustrated golfer on a very tough course.
Totally fair. Totally fair.
Yep.
So, all right, well, let's put the U.S. Open in the books. Again, congratulations to Bryson DeChambeau on winning his first major. All right, let's turn our attention to the Corrales. It's such a long-winded one. Corrales Puntacana. I just had it here. Puntacana Resort and Club Championship. There you go. Corrales Puntacana Resort and Club Championship. We're going to move on to that. Obviously, a very, very thinned-out field than what you would expect, obviously, after watching last week. But before we dive into that long-named tournament here in beautiful Puntacana, I would like to thank, obviously, a couple of our sponsors, 12 Ounce Sports, for obviously putting us on, and Zingo TV, where you're watching and listening to us every Wednesday at 4 p.m. with replays at 11 p.m. until the start of the first round of that week's tournament. And also Saturday evenings at 10 p.m. and Sunday mornings at 10 a.m. are our NFL picks. Had a little better week last week. We'll talk about that definitely on Saturday night and Sunday morning. And I want to give a special shout out to one of the 12 Ounce shows, the World Hockey Report, for sending this sweet hat.
That's where that came from. Okay, nice.
Yeah, so wanted to give them a special shout out, Cody, who runs the World Hockey Report and also pretty much is the utility guy for 12 ounce. Does a lot of things too. So I want to give him a special shout out. Appreciate the swag and appreciate a lot of the stuff they do behind the scenes that makes our jobs easier for sure. So, all right, so let's move forward here to, again, that long named tournament, the Corrales. We'll just call it the Corrales Championship at this point going forward. We are, again, here in Punta Cana and at the Corrales Golf Club. And as we do every week, we are going to get an outline of that course, courtesy of the man who is currently still in Florida, I think, right?
Still in Florida? Yep. Be back in a few days, but enjoying the nice, beautiful parts here.
Maybe my layover will be in Florida.
Ah, there you
From
go.
the Dominican
Yes.
Republic here.
Yes, I might miss you, though. I'll probably leave before you come in on your layover. So
Fair enough. So why don't you give us a breakdown of this course? Because I will tell you what, from playing it and also seeing it on the internet, it's a beautiful looking track.
it is. It really is. And, you know, nicely enough, there are 3 tournaments that are going to be played twice in this upcoming golf season. One of them is the Masters. The other is what we just played, the U.S. Open. And the third is the Corrales Championship. Gets in that group of those 2 tournaments. So they'll play this at its normal time in the spring again here in the upcoming 2021. So we're going to get Corrales twice in a single golf season, which, you know, is kind of a downer, some people might say, or whatever. But I could not agree more with your assessment, Aaron. I think it's a beautiful course. I watched it in depth a couple of years ago when Bryce Garnett ended up winning. Had a friend of a friend who knew him really well and grew up with him, so that was kind of fun. And Bryce has been grinding for a long, long time, so that was a big win for him. And then just caught a little bit of it last year, but yeah, it's a beautiful course. So a recent design here, 2010 Tom Fazio course. It's really just as a resort style course gets. So we're looking at very, very wide, expansive fairways, very large greens, and rough that they're going to keep the exact same pretty much as they would for all of the tourists that come in and play. So just 2-inch rough, maybe even like less than 2 inches in some spots. It doesn't actually grow that hard here, so they'd only have to cut it, from what I understand. I was reading about this course, about 4 or 5 once every 4 or 5 days. So really, really interesting kind of there. A grass we don't see all that often, a grass called Supreme Paspalum, which is really a tropical kind of grass. Will not be able to grow it most of the continental United States, but you'll see it a lot in Hawaii and places in the tropics, Puerto Rico, things like that. This is the exact type of grass you'll see at El Camalon for the Mayakoba Classic. And also at TPC Kuala Lumpur, which they tend to play in this fall season as well. So so we're used to seeing things like that. But again, for a lot of the regular tour players, and we're not going to see a ton of those this week, they would be really unfamiliar with this type of grass. So it is kind of interesting in that sense. And it's just one of the slowest growing grasses that there is. And you'll see that usually things kind of change from the beginning of the day. The early guys, the greens will have a little bit of a different speed than maybe towards the end of the day. Here it's actually really consistent, so it doesn't change all that much. So it's kind of a fun style there. But as we said, resort style course, and it's going to be relatively easy to hit fairways and relatively easy to hit greens, all things considered. So it becomes a bit of a putting contest here, especially since even if you do miss the fairway, you will be able to get it out of the rough without a whole lot of worry. And that's the toughest thing to do, I think. Handicapping events where it really can become a bit of a punting contest is tough. And we've seen from these last 2 winners at this tournament, Bryce Garnett and Graham McDowell last year. I mean, that is pretty far and relatively random, as it goes. So I think this is a very, very difficult handicap this week. The defense of this course is wind and, being right on the ocean there. And that's usually what happens in the spring. The wind tends to come up, and it is actually at its difficult peak. Whereas now in the fall, despite it being hurricane season, it's actually on the other side of the island, the other side of Dominican Republic, where they don't tend to get hit as hard or as bad. And we're going to see that this week kind of play out, because we're really only going to be Friday where the winds are going to be anything over 10 miles an hour. So I think scoring is going to be fast and furious here, and we're going to get a winner probably in the 20 under plus range here. So the way I handicapped this was really, I took driving completely out. I don't care how how far you hit it, how accurate you are. It really doesn't make a whole lot of difference. Took a little bit of a look as it being more of a second shot course with guys in short to mid irons and how accurate they are and their proximity to the hole. I took a little bit of account of that, but I also just wanted putters. I wanted guys that have played on Paspalum before, guys that have done well in island type of golf. And that's really about it. And of course, looking at recent and current form is as always, first and foremost. So that's about where we're at here. But this is, in my opinion, going to be one of, if not the most difficult week in this fall season to handicap. I think this is a really tough one to get right. So I'm going to be focused a little bit more on matchups here, and then just try to kind of take a few flyers in regards to the future market.
Yeah, I got to imagine that's probably the best way to do it. I mean,
yeah.
if you asked a casual golfer to look down this list, I'd say on the best day they could name 2 golfers that they know, and that might even be stretching it. Sure. And when you brought the Graham McDowell, I mean, I haven't heard that name in quite some time.
Exactly. Yeah.
Used to be on top of the world, actually, a really good golfer for a long period of time. I don't remember. I want to say it was the Masters, but I could be wrong. It was tournament. I feel like he missed 6 or 7 foot putt, huge putt, huge spot, and I feel like he just kind of fell off just ever since then. I want to say it was like 6 or 7 years ago. But anyways, that's not something we need to dive into. But the one thing I do want to dive into, because I was really shocked, and it's a name that we all know based on a lot of the times that we have Korn Ferry action and we have, Tokens, the Korn Ferry master. A name I hear a lot from you guys is Will Zalatoris. He's currently the number 1 ranked Korn Ferry player. And I got to say, I'm shocked to see that he's the favorite here. And I'm curious to know why. And I feel like maybe it's primarily, I think he finished T5 or T6 at Winged Foot last week. I want to say it's primarily because of that. Do you guys have any other reason that he would be the favorite? I mean, Mackenzie Hughes, Corey Connors, Sam Burns, Grillo, there's a couple of guys, Henrik Stenson. I'm not saying Henrik Stenson deserves to be a favorite, but there's a couple of these guys that play regularly on the PGA Tour, and you got the Korn Ferry guy. You're number 1, 11-1 is the favorite.
Yeah, in my opinion, that was definitely a surprise to have him as the favorite and as close to the favorite as he was. I thought he was going to be up there, but I didn't think he was going to be at quite such a low number, in my opinion. And based on everything that I've been reading with people that pick the winner and whatnot, they're all high on him this weekend. It's a lot of it to do with last week's result at Winged Foot. I mean, he did play very well, but it was a very tough course and situation.
And I think he nailed it on the head. I mean, I agree with you. He played very well given the fact that the course was a monster, but he did just, run through 4 rounds of monstrous golf. It's got to take a toll. And to come travel down here from New York to the Dominican Republic and play a tournament and really be the betting favorites, I feel like this is a stock fade spot, to use a word that Tony Johnson likes to use.
Yeah, I can't disagree with this being a bit of a stock fade situation. I'm not saying I wouldn't have had him as a favorite. In fact, based on my numbers, and what I do with my formula here, Mackenzie Hughes came out as a favorite for me, and actually a pretty decent size one too. I have him at 10. If I was to have anything, and the next golfer I think is at 16 or something like that. So I don't know, it's kind of funny in its own right, but yeah, I mean, I hate to beat this dead horse too, but I think Token and I have been talking about this a little bit too. These Korn Ferry players, I mean, they are really, really strong. This is 100%. Yeah, this is a great tour, and Zalatoris won twice last year, and he had many other top 10s. This guy is a real stick. So I'm not surprised at where it comes down to in this sense. Yeah, he's not an 11-1 shot if he doesn't finish T6 at the U.S. Open. But even a strong-ish U.S. Open finish, a made cut, top 20, 30, 40 type of thing, he's still one of the favorites. He's still near the top. Yeah, and I think it just goes to show you, how strong it is and how unfortunate that these guys from this last season are not able to get full tour cards. And Zalatoris is really the one getting screwed here really, really hard. So the top 10 do get 4 entries into events this upcoming season that they can use at specific given times. I don't have those rules in front of me. And he is, of course, one of those top 10. But he does get into this tournament because of a previous top 10 in a PGA Tour event. So anytime you finish in the top 10 on the PGA Tour, you get another start right away. Your next start is given to you by the PGA Tour. I mean, it's really a fascinating thing. Austin Cook made a career out of doing this. He Monday qualified back-to-back weeks, and then top 10 the second one, then top 10 again, and so he was able to get like 5 or 6 starts along with a sponsor exemption in there. So, yeah, I mean, Zalatoris doesn't burn a sponsor exemption, and he doesn't burn one of his 4 here, so he gets to play pretty much al gratis, and he decided to take it because he was not scheduled to be playing in this event. So we'll see. You know, guys are not scheduled, not ready. Doesn't have a lot of experience here. I'm with you, Aaron. I think this is not a great spot for him. Not to say that he's not going to make the cut or be horrible. No, I think his game is so good. Yeah. But I think your point is great. Is that I'm not sure we should be buying here at 11-1. It's a weaker field, but there's still a lot of very high quality players, just like there are on a weekly basis on the Korn Ferry Tour.
All right, gentlemen, let's.
Yeah, well said, Tony. I mean, very high on the radar. Yeah, very high on the radar for a lot of people, and that screams fade. So
he screams fade maybe louder than the Vikings last week.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Those Vikings. Ugh.
All right,
that team
boys.
Is killing me. That team is killing me.
So far, yes, I would agree with you. All right, let's do some betting, boys. Let's do some betting. Let's get into the futures market. We're gonna do a 2-tiered system here. Break away from the traditional. Basically, anybody in double digits is going to be the first tier. Anybody 101 and over is going to be the second tier. So with that, Token, I will have you start with the first tier, a guy or a couple of guys you like in this spot at the Corrales Golf Club.
Yeah, like Tony Johnson had stated, it's probably going to be a lighter week for futures for me as well. Probably a little higher on the flyer action for me, though. 2 guys that come off kind of strong on my radar coming into this week are Sam Burns and Emiliano Grillo. Of those 2, I lean more towards Grillo at the 25-1 instead of Burns at the 18-1. Both are good options in my opinion. If I have to choose one, I would go with Grillo, though. I have a little more faith in his putting ability, especially on these greens. One more in this tier that I like is Charlie Hoffman at 40-1. I see some very good value in him on this kind of weaker field situation.
Las Vegas boy.
Yep. Very good with scrambling. He is able to. I think he was like in the top 10 or 20 for birdie percentage when having those opportunities as well on tour last year, if I'm not mistaken. So definitely a little high on him this week coming in, and yeah.
Well, you probably are going to get a chance to utilize that Sam Burns pick. He is in a matchup, we'll talk about this later, against that aforementioned Will Zalatoris, so we might get into that.
I was confident we were going to touch on that one too. Yes, for sure.
Tip of the cap.
Yeah, these. And if I had to tip the cap, I would do so. I think these are 3 quality names here that you gave, Token. I can't disagree with anything here. There's only one that I think might have a little bit of actual line value, and that's Denny McCarthy here, which he can be found at 35 at a couple of spots. He's currently 33 here for the lines we use at William Hill, and Denny just fits this course profile so well. Not only is he an excellent putter and has revitalized, I think, his quality putting here over the last month or 2, but his ball striking has been fantastic. He gave a really nice run at Sedgefield back about a month ago or so at the Wyndham, and he was a guy I had that week, and I really, really like when things come together at the ball striking spot for Jenny McCarthy. He is a very, very, very tough guy to beat because he's so good in and around the greens, and he reads putts very, very well. So these greens are, the undulations are pretty severe, not wing foot severe, but they are pretty severe here at this course. And I'm very confident this is a guy that can do well in a spot like this. He does have a top 10 in Puerto Rico and has actually played well there on a consistent basis. So he has past Pullum experience on this grass. And, he's played on these islands, quite a bit. He even played a little bit on the Korn Ferry Tour when they play out in a few spots like this. So I like Denny McCarthy here at 35. I'm not quite sure I can get to the window with him. Again, with the same types of things that Token said, I'm just not sure the value is enough. But that would be the one and only guy that I would consider betting in this range.
All right, fair enough. It's time for the Flyers. We'll look at this second tier. And again, the second tier is anyone in the triple digits at 100 to 1 and over. That gives you, let's the start here is Rob Oppenheim all the way down to, let's see who has the worst. It's Alex Cheka, or Seka, however you say his name. So, Token, let's get some Flyers here.
Yeah, definitely a whole lot of these on the radar, in my opinion. I mean, if such a weak field and even the expectations for those higher ones, you're going to see a lot of fireworks this week on tour. I'm going to start with the lower value one that I have is going to be Nate Lashley at 125 to 1. I really like him this week. He will be able to scramble very well, consistently decent to the whole proximity with his longer irons too. I see very good value at 125 to 1 on him. And then the guy I like the most for his value this week is Pat Kazire at 100 to 1.
I wanted to guess the guy, but I would have gotten it wrong, so it's all good.
Oh, okay. Who are you going to go with?
I thought you were going to say Josh Teeter.
Oh, okay. I was looking at him, but I'm not sold on him this week. I think Pat will have a very good week. When he will miss screens, he'll be able to scramble very well on this course. The only thing that might worry me is on Friday with that maybe slight stronger bit of wind. If he has a later tee time, he might struggle a little with that, but I don't think enough to get the job done.
All right, well, the guy I'm throwing in here before, Tony, we get your Flyer lies here, and it's the only guy who's currently on tour who might have a bigger belly than I do, and that's Mr. Affy Barnrat.
Yes, I think he's got you beat.
I think that guy's been eating buffets during COVID. He is a big – he gained 60, 70 pounds easily.
He gained a lot. Yeah, I couldn't believe how big he looked, since the restart. Yeah, it was a little bit shocking because he wasn't a small guy just, before. So
no, but he seemed a little bit more muscular when I watched him. He was primarily on the other tours. He popped into the PGA every once in a while. Please don't take that as gospel. I'm not betting on him. I just love seeing that because ever since he's come back, I've just been appalled's not the right word, but shocked. Shocked.
It's a good description.
Shocked. It actually gives me hope that maybe I could play golf for professionally. Yeah,
absolutely. Kiridesh is a fun guy. I used to watch him quite a bit on the European tour as he was coming up. So I've always really liked him too. But always been a big dude, but he can get it done for sure. I have a lot of Flyers here. I'm with you, Token. I think there's a lot of good spots. So I'm just going to reel them off. And again, as always, I know I say this all the time, but for our listeners, everybody out there, make sure you shop for these lines because, these are just the William Hill lines, but there are some significantly better ones in other spots. JJ Spawn, I'll start it out at 100 to 1. Again, a guy that fits the profile really well. Great short game. Not a very long hitter, but I don't think it's going to matter here. But despite not being a very long hitter, he actually does extremely well on par fives from 500 to 550 yards. And of the par fives they're going to play this week, 2 of those are going to be in that realm. The par fives are actually not terribly long here, so really, really like that spot. JJ Spawn at 100. He's a very up and down player. Easily missed the cut or could easily be contending. But when he gets the ball rolling, he's tough to bring down. So I like him a lot. Next up is CT Pan here at 100. I know he's gotten it done in a few times on shorter courses and stuff where you really need to place the ball. But again, I think in a spot here where his long game has not actually been clicking all that well the last 2 or 3 months, he's been getting it done with the short game, and he's made quite a few cuts by being able to get up and down and rolling in a lot of putts. And a guy with his type of game, he's got a very, very, very strong long game when it all does come together. I think is a really nice thing here because we know he's going to putt pretty well. So if he can get the rest of his game together, always a force. CT Pan. Going along the list, Scott Brown at 150. This is more of a play for this type of grass. He's a guy, doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I think he's from Texas or something like that, but he's done extremely well on paspalum grass from Puerto Rico, Venezuela when he was on the Corn Ferry Tour. They played once down there. and a few other spots, I think at Mayakoba as well. Total in all of these tournaments, he's 11 for 11 and made cuts, and he's got 6 top 10s in all of these tournaments, even going back to some of the Corn Ferry stuff. So, again, a guy that knows how to get it done here and is really comfortable. A great island golfer, as some people like to say. There are some guys on tour that tend to do better on the smaller events. Tony Finau comes to mind. His only win is in Puerto Rico. Jerry Kelly back in the day was always one of those guys. Aaron Baddeley is a really good example. So, yeah, I mean, Scott Brown is a guy, and he's been popping a little bit here. He's finally gotten his game turned around. I think 150 is a really good number. And then finally, Jonathan Bird at 200, a guy that I do play probably at least a couple of times a year. And I was fortunate to get him the last time he actually won a tournament, which was out in Las Vegas, actually. Yeah, I mean, Jonathan Bird is a fascinating case study because he's a guy that's kept his tour card for well over a decade. He does have 2 or 3 wins in that span. He doesn't do anything extremely well. Brandt Snedeker kind of comes to mind. Just a nice all-around smooth, solid game. Also does well, always playing these off events out in the islands, and has a really, really good record, especially in Puerto Rico, which I think aligns really, really well out here. So, again, I think it's a guy that I want to be on in a light field at 200 to 1.
Yeah, fair enough. So it looks like we're shooting for the moon this week, boys, in the futures market, and I think that's probably the way to play this. You're right. Some of these guys that are in the double digit in terms of odds, again, back to Will Zalatoris. There's just not a lot of value in the closer to the favorites. So let's take some shots. But let's get into those matchups, because I think that's where the money's to be made here, because my bar tab is going to be high, so I need to make some money. Because these Mai Tais are like $6.50 a piece, and I don't know what that converts to Dominican money. So it could.
Were you drinking those on the course earlier, or was that a sober time on the course?
No, the course was just straight Labatt Blue.
Oh, Labatt! They serve Labatt down there. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's really weird. I think actually it's expired Labatt. I think it's expired Labatt Blue that's just made its way onto a cargo ship and finds its way down here. It's like the Super Bowl losers T-shirts, the stuff that doesn't get. You know what I mean? I think that stuff just washes up here onto these shores. So, the Labatt Blue was flowing in holes like 2 through 16. So
fantastic.
They tried to give me Labatt Blue Light, but I mean, I have class and standards.
Sure.
So, all right. So let's go into the matchups. Tony, I'll start with you here with the matchups.
Okay, excellent. Well, I'll steal a little bit of Token's thunder because I'm pretty sure that he's going to be on this one too. So I might as well lead off with it. But I think this number's wrong here with Sam Burns and Will Zalatoris. Again, this is not a hate on Will Zalatoris. I actually think he can have a fine week and make the cut and be involved somewhere at least, and maybe fade a little bit towards the end. But Sam Burns makes a lot of sense here. Again, I don't really care about the driving distance. That's not my concern. The fact that he can spray it a little bit is great, but his putting has improved immensely since the restart. And Sam Burns is not just a banging out kind of guy. He really can get it up and down around the greens, and his putting stroke has improved immensely. So, really like Sam Burns. I think he makes a lot of sense. We'd probably be on him in the futures market if his number, was a little bit better. But plus 130 here against Will Zalatoris, which you can find one of the best numbers around too. Not a lot of plus 130s out there. So Will Hill is your spot for sure for this.
Wonder if they'll get a lot of square money on that Zalatoris pick.
It's fascinating. I agree. I was thinking that too. Maybe that's it, because maybe they know the guy now, a top 10, and he's the pick for the tournament. I find it really, really weird. This line makes no sense. So plus 130 here for Sam Burns. Next up, another really, really big dog, especially in a matchup here. Brian Stewart over Luke List. Stewart plus 145. Fits the course perfectly. This is exactly the type of thing that Brian Stewart will do well. He's a very, very short hitter as tour standards go. Actually, I think second or third shortest of all guys with a tour card last year. So, but again, that's not going to matter a whole lot. He actually just like JJ Spawn, does extremely well in par 5 scoring across the board, not even just the shorter par 5s. It's because he's so accurate with his shorter irons, and that's exactly what we're going to need here. Get the ball as close to the hole as you can, roll some putts, a really good putter, guy that's kept his tour card for now years and years and years, and just doesn't do anything great. A guy you want to be on in a spot like this. Do I think he can win? Probably not, but I'm really, really confident he's going to make the cut, and he will not give up, and he will grind. He will grind every single shot. Luke List is renowned for not grinding on every single shot. Guy with a ton of talent, a lot of game, but doesn't always bring it on a week-to-week basis, and this is not a spot I want to be on Luke List. Luke List is a bomber and a guy that can really attack long golf courses. He does extremely well on par 70s. Par 70s are his jam with a lot of long par 4s. This is not a good spot for him. Plus 145 Brian Stewart. This will be the biggest bet of the week for me. And number 3 here, following along with my Denny McCarthy spot on the future market. I like Denny McCarthy over Adam Schenk at minus 110. You can find that that's pretty standard line across the board here at the 3 places I looked at. Adam Schenk is no joke. This is not a whole big-time pick against Adam Schenk. I just don't think he has the consistent type of game. Adam Schenk is a classic case of one bad round throughout a tournament, and it's just on a time like this where we're going to need 4 really, really good rounds to have a chance, because 20 under plus is going to win this thing. I think that takes Adam Schenk almost enough out against a guy like Denny McCarthy, who's super consistent and really, really strong and is not going to 3-putt greens and is going to be there, I think, very close towards the end. So I like Denny McCarthy over Adam Schenk at minus 110. And those are the 3 that I have already bet, and probably the only 3 that I'll have this week.
Interesting. I mean, first one I booked was the first one that you said. I mean, the Burns over Zalatoris at plus 130. I mean,
I'm thinking you got to get that early, because as soon as you're watching this, try to find that, because I feel like anybody with half a wit on golf betting is probably going to be pounding that.
I'm surprised it was that high. Realistically, I thought it was going to be right around the even.
Well, maybe
number.
We're all suckers.
Yeah.
Maybe see.
Let's hope it's not.
I mean, suckers with finding great lines, though. I mean, plus 130 is a steal at that matchup, in my opinion.
Look at Tony's face.
I know he's right. It's true. Like I don't even care if he loses by a shot or 2.
I was kind of shocked how big it was when I was looking at the matchup.
Title of your sex tape.
Yeah. Hey, I gave that to Christine.
Oh, snap. Wow. Okay. The podcast has turned.
It always finds a new hole each time.
Wow. Token. Wow. I'm on fire.
I'm currently going back and forth on whether I should edit this out or not. I think I'm leaving it.
You started this. You led him down this path there, and you sort of deserve it, I think, at this point. Yeah.
I led the horse. I didn't think he'd drink.
My name is Token. I make stupid decisions, and I'm a fucking Lions fan. I'm batshit crazy, so.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on. Let's go to the next matchup. I got CT Pan over Kong Hong Lee at plus 105. I like CT this week.
That just sounds like the most racist bet you've ever made in your life.
That was a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
There you
go. Moving on, we got Pat Kazire over Kevin Chappell at plus 105. I think Pat's got a realistic shot to win this week, and I'll take him in a matchup at plus money pretty much against anybody within reasonable value and all that. Be good value. And moving on to the last one, we got another dog as my 4th one. All on dogs this week. We got Emiliano Grillo over Adam Long at plus 110. I mean, that matchup just screams Emiliano in my mind for sure.
It's time for Token's DFS lineup. Your lineup. I entered your lineup in 6 head-to-head competitions. I went 1 and 5.
Oh, okay.
We had 3 missed cuts last week. That's not gonna get it done.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, last week was a little rough, especially trying to find some value and all that. But
trying to find anyone to go under par.
Yes, just a birdie here would be kind of nice.
I wasn't able to do that last week, but
that's all right. We right the ship. We don't want to be shipwrecked in the Dominican Republic.
Yeah, and this week, $200 budget like always going on. I mean, I like this week a lot, actually, with this lineup.
We'll spit it out.
I'm gonna start out. Yeah, I'm gonna start out with. We got Emiliano Grillo for $36. Very solid performance. Will easily make this cut. Most likely even in top 10, in my opinion. Moving on down, I kind of like this pick. I think he'll have a right around the top 20, top 10, decent, solid performances. Pat Perez for $36. I think he'll get mainly the job done with scrambling, gain a lot of strokes against the field with that stat. And then we got Charlie Hoffman, easily another top 10 contender in my mind. And I think I will end up betting him at 40-1, in my opinion, for this week. Las Vegas native. What's not to like about Charlie? Moving on, we got Sam Burns for $33. I mean, probably
We'd be remiss if he
longest
wasn't in your DFS lineup. We're all over him this week. We would be
Yeah.
remiss if he wasn't in there.
Yeah, I'm surprised. Like Zalatoris was right around the same price range, and there was a whole bunch of people that were right around the 30 to 50 range in future odds that were much more higher than these, and on their price. So Burns at that value is just incredible steal. We got CT Pan, who I like in that matchup against Ko Hong Lee. He'll definitely be able to get the job done putting. Will easily make this cut. Probably sniff the top 20 and just move on. So, and then we got probably my favorite value golfer this week for daily fans. So we got Pat Kazire for only 20. I mean,
wait, what are they? Wait, he's the basement dweller.
He's the basement dweller, but he actually might be the best golfer on this list, in my opinion, for this week.
Wow, fretting, petting. Oh.
From the outhouse to the penthouse.
Wow.
Pat Kazire.
That is a bold proclamation from Token.
20
I
buck
like it.
Chuck, Mr. Kazire himself, rounding out the DFS lineup there. I love it. All right, so that's gonna do it for the Corrales Golf Club. We're gonna move as we wrap up here, move into the other tours. I know we have some light action on those tours this week. So Token, I'll have you go ahead and start that off.
Yeah, we got Corn Ferry this week. One name on this radar. I'll give you
Zalatoris.
if you'd like. It's not going to be Zalatoris this week unless if some crazy thing happens where
it gets stage fright
goes into the Wichita area.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right.
You should pass doing that. Wichita sucks.
Let me think. If you give me one guess. Let's see. I don't want to waste too much dead air here, but I'm gonna say, is he not playing this week?
Who?
This is gonna be out of left field, but I'm gonna say Anders Albertson.
I think he's going with Ollie.
No, neither of those. And I'm surprised one of you guys didn't guess Pernder. But
Well, he was the favorite. I didn't think he'd take
You're
him.
going with the fave? Oh,
no, I'm not. No, I'm not this week.
Oh, okay.
I'm going with a flyer on the Corn Ferry this week. I like Brandon Thornberry at 70-1.
Ah, okay.
Braden Thornberry. Man, if you're gonna bet on him, you know his name.
Probably. It helps a little bit. Okay.
I know his odds at least.
Because you know what? There might be a Brandon Thornberry. When you walk through the window, you might get that guy's ticket.
Good old Brandon.
Good old Brandon Thornberry at 50-1. When you missed out on Braden Thornberry, it's 70-1.
Oh, the
That'd be the
Thornberries.
ultimate cooler moment.
That would be rough if you don't have the right Thornberry. That's not ideal. No,
That'd be like going to an LSU versus Clemson, wanting to bet that game and say, give me the Tigers. And then the person at the sportsbook doesn't pay attention and you get the wrong side. I feel like that could happen.
Always check your ticket at the window.
What if it just said Tigers?
Ooh,
Uh-oh.
rough. Very rough.
As a pick'em?
As a pickup? Oh, God, that would be even worse. Oh, all right. So that's your Corn Ferry.
Yep.
I can't add anything here. I'm just barely getting my PGA Tour action in on this Tuesday. But Interesting enough, Shane Lowry is playing in the Irish Open this week on the European Tour, so that seems to fit beautifully well. And if you really want to lay some chalk, he's only a 6.5 to 1 favorite in that Irish Open in a very, very weak field on the European Tour, even by their standards. Just coming off a major, it's the same way everywhere. So. But fun times, I'm sure. He's a guy that is always fun to root for and fun to watch. And he's been playing some pretty decent golf. So just for viewership purposes, I might watch a little bit of the European Tour this week. But no bets for me. I don't believe this week I won't have any Corn Ferry or European action.
Right on. All right, that's going to wrap it up here for us. Live here at the Corrales Golf Club here in beautiful Punta Cana, Dominican Republic. We appreciate you watching and listening. We obviously want to thank our sponsors that they've been scrolling across the screen. Obviously, 12 Ounce Sports Network and Zingo TV, but we also are sponsored by Vice Golf, Pro-Am Customs, Fanatics.com, Wicked Cuts Jerky, and DC4L Custom Tees. All their information will be either on our sponsorship page at LV Squares, on our YouTube video for every podcast we drop. So please continue to support them so they can continue to support us. Again, special shout out. Again, thank you to Cody for the free WHR World Hockey Report swag. Appreciate it. I'm not a big trucker hat guy, but this one I'm kind of digging a little bit. Letting the breeze go through my hair, the sea breeze.
There you go.
I can dig that. Again, thank you to the sponsors. Thank you to 12 Ounce. Thank you to Tony Johnson and Token. Hopefully we can pad your wallet a little bit this week. And again, for Tony Johnson, I am Aaron. We appreciate you listening and watching, and we will catch you on the next one.